and Chief Legal Analyst Jeffrey Toobin, former Texas State Senator Wendy Davis, and constitutional law professor and CNN analyst Steve Vladeck. Jeff, you predicted this would happen. Talk about the importance of this.
Well, I predicted it would happen, but I sure as hell didn't predict it would happen this way. I mean, you just have to understand what a breach of Supreme Court tradition this is. This was known as the one leak-proof institution in Washington. There has never been anything like a leak of this magnitude, anything close, never, never, never. And it's just an indication of how riven this Supreme Court is by anger and viciousness over this issue. But putting the procedural issue aside, what this means, if this is in fact a Supreme Court decision that is, as Justice Alito's words stand as the court's decision, what this means is that a constitutional right that women have had in this country for 50 years, pushing 3 generations, is gone. It is gone overnight, and it is now up to the politicians. And this idea that it is simply returning the abortion rights to the states is not really correct, because what we are seeing in these states that are banning abortion is they are reaching out. They are trying to ban abortion in the whole country. They are banning the use of the mails for medical abortions. They are banning travel for abortion purposes. They are criminalizing attempts from members of other states to try to get ban abortion within their states. I mean, this is a constitutional earthquake if it stands, and American life, not just American law, will be very different if this is the law of the land.
Senator Davis, what's your reaction to this?
It's not surprising, Anderson, but of course deeply shocking all at the same time. This is a moment that we hoped we would never see. And what's really fascinating to me about the court's opinion, if indeed this is the opinion that is issued, is they talk about this as though it's a return to the states, to the will of the people. And yet the Supreme Court itself has been the major obstacle to voting rights reform, redistricting reform, that would actually return the will of the people to state legislative bodies around this country. What it says to us is that this November, the stakes in the U.S. House and Senate races just got that much higher. Because if the court is going to abandon women across this country and the constitutional protections that we've had, as Jeffrey said, for more than 50 years, we can only rely now on the 2 other branches to make up what women will be losing throughout this country. And there will be no end in sight to it. We've already seen here in Texas a young woman in the Rio Grande Valley criminally charged for choosing to abort a pregnancy. And I truly believe this is where we are headed under this Supreme Court opinion, if indeed in June or July this comes to pass.
Jeff Toobin, if you can you just explain why is there a draft? I mean, how does this work in the Supreme Court?
Well, again, this is how it works, is that the Supreme Court hears arguments usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or some combination thereof. And then on Friday, they have their conference, which is the super secret meeting of the 9 justices in the Chief Justice's conference room. No one is allowed in that room. Only the justices are around the table, and they take what's called a draft. They take a vote, but it's not a permanent vote. It's a tentative vote on the on what the result of the case is. Based on the result in that case, of the tentative vote on that Friday, the Chief Justice or the senior associate justice in the majority then assigns the opinion to one member of the majority. The Chief Justice could assign it to himself. If this is the split in the court, the senior associate justice would have been Clarence Thomas. He's now the senior associate justice if Chief Justice Roberts is in dissent. So Justice Thomas would here have assigned the opinion to Justice Alito to write the opinion for the majority. He then would have prepared a draft, and that's what it appears this is that was leaked to Politico. That is then circulated among the 9 justices, and the justices in the majority get to comment on it and say, well, I would change this, I would change that. And then the 4 dissenters decide, are they going to write a single dissenting opinion? Are they going to write separate dissenting opinions? But this circulation process, it often takes months, especially with high-profile cases. This case was argued in the fall, this Hobbs case from Mississippi, and it's not surprising that it's taken all these months to be resolved. But I can't emphasize enough, as someone who has covered this court for 30 years, who's written 2 books on the court, there has never been a leak, anything like this. There's never been a leak of a vote, much less an actual opinion, much less in a case of this significance. It's really going to be an interesting question, putting aside so much about it, what this means for the institution of the Supreme Court, what it means for the respect that the justices and the court's decisions are held. The idea that a decision of this magnitude could leak is really a shattering experience for the justices and the court. And I really don't know how the institution's going to recover.
Steve, I'm wondering what your initial reaction is to this overturning a precedent.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson, it's an earthquake, and it's an earthquake for all the reasons that that Jeff was talking about, that you guys have been talking about. It's an earthquake for what it